Ouachita Parish School Board meeting from any time that your schedule would allow. Ms. Mickus, you call roll, please.
Mr. Como.
Here.
Ms. May.
Here.
Mr. Rice.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Mr. McCoy.
Here.
Mr. Gray.
Here.
Mr. Manley.
Here. Let's stand, please, for the pledge. Be done by Board Member Gary Manley.
Please join me in the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ratification be done by Mr. Bobby Jones.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another day. Father, we just pray for this meeting today, Lord Father. We pray for your wisdom and guidance, Lord Father, for our board members, Lord Father, those that are presenting today. Father, we just ask for your spirit to be in this room. Father, we ask you to continue to watch over our school system, Lord Father, and just keep us safe. And Father, we just thank you so much for the blessings that you've given us. Father, we pray for our troops that are around this world, Lord Father, that protect us and allow us to meet in places like this, Lord Father. Father, again, we thank you for our school system. We thank you for our leadership, Lord Father, that looks to you for guidance. And Father, again, we just want to lift our country up, Lord Father. I just pray for this nation, Lord Father. We will just gather around our flag and, Father, just unite us and just let us know that you're near. Father, again, we're so thankful for all that you've done for us. And Father, we just ask all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We'll look down at the minutes. We need approval of the minutes, September the 14th, 2021.
So move.
I'll second.
Yeah, motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to approval of the agenda. Need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
I so move we approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Personnel report, Dr. Cope.
We're good, Mr. Hicks.
Okay. Moving right down to business. Item number 1, special recognitions. Ms. Aline?
Good afternoon. My name is Joe David with the Louisiana Association of Principals. We want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to present this. In this time of teacher shortage and administrator shortages, we encourage people to go back and get their degrees and become administrators because we need them badly. And so this year we would like to recognize a teacher from Good Hope Middle School as our 2021 Aspiring Principal Scholarship. With me is John Gates from Horace Mann, who has a check for her to help her with her schooling. And also with me is Twana Calhoun, who is the principal at Good Hope. So at this time, we'd like to recognize Gara Rankin, our aspiring principal.
Congratulations, Gary.
Congratulations.
Oh, great.
Moving that. Moving down to item number 2, to consider and take action with respect to adopting a resolution confirming an election date change pursuant to the executive order of the governor, confirming the date canvassed the returns of the election and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Ms. Regina Mickus.
Good afternoon. This resolution is just to acknowledge the change in the in the election dates from November the 13th to December the 11th. This will not change our canvassing date, which will be our next meeting on December the 14th. So it's just to acknowledge the change in election dates.
Okay.
Need a roll call?
Yeah.
Roll call?
No, roll call.
Yes.
Okay, need a roll call vote, Ms. Mickens, please.
Roll call, Mr. Como?
Did we have a motion?
Got a motion? Motion and a second.
This is the motion?
Yes, yes, motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the, resolution of changing the effective date on the upcoming bond election to, December the 11th.
Okay, we have a second. We have a second?
Mr. Como?
Yes.
Ms. May?
Yes.
Mr. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. McCoy?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Manley?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes. Okay. Moving down to item number 3. Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the year ended June 30th, 2020. Ms. Margie Williamson.
I'm just going to go over a couple of things in the financial and compliance audit. The first one will be the financial audit, and I think you all have a copy of the financial audit. And if you turn to the financial section tab, that is the independent auditor's report. And this is the purpose of the audit, is to give an opinion on the financial statements. And if you go to page 4, this is the opinion on the financial statements. And it is an unmodified opinion, which means that our opinion on the financial statements is that the financial statements are fairly stated without any modifications. If you go to the basic financial statements tab and page 32, this is a statement that's required by governmental auditing standards. And this statement actually includes all the capital assets, all the debt, and all the liabilities of the school board. So the thing I wanted to point out on this statement is that under the liabilities section, there is an OPEB liability and a net pension liability. And these are some of the largest numbers on the statement. The OPEB liability is $239 million, and the pension liability is $223 million. The OPEB is the other post-employment benefits, and that is an estimate of the school board's liability for their portion of the health insurance. That's an estimate of what is the liability is for retirees and also for current employees that will be retiring in the future. So that is an estimate of what the future cost is. The same for the pension liability, even though you are in the state group plans. This is the school board share of what that liability is. The fund financial statements, if you go to page 36, these financial statements are on your budget basis. And the first column is the general fund. If you look down at the bottom, and these financial statements are for June 30th, 2020 year end. So the general fund at June 30th, 2020, the total fund balance was $23.2 million. That is actually around 16% of what your general fund expenditures are. The general fund expenditures were about $144 million. So that's basically about 2 months of expenditures and fund balance. The rest of the funds are under the supplementary information. I'm just going to point out where they are. I'm not going to go over them since this is June 30th, 2020 information. And so the debt service, the special revenue, and the capital project funds will be under that tab. The other report is actually the compliance report, the single audit report. And in our audit, we do an audit of compliance with state and federal laws. So this report is a report on the compliance. And if you go to page 10 and 11, this is the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. These are your federal grants that you receive for the 2020 fiscal year. And if you look on page 11, the total is $20.6 million that you received in federal grants. If you look on page 10, at the top, the $7.3 million, that's child nutrition. That's the child nutrition programs. If you go on down the page, $6.5 million is actually Title I. And on further down the page, the special ed programs were $4.1 million. So those are the three largest programs that make up the federal funds. If you go to page 14, we did have 3 findings. The first one is on page 14, internal control over capital assets. And this finding had to just do with construction in progress. And the second finding was internal control over journal entries. And this finding was that we did test some journal entries and they did not have evidence of review of a second person. And then the last one on page 16 has to do with the special ed and Title I testing. This was when we the main reason for this finding is that when we tested the payroll for the special ed and Title I was that in the NovaTime system, the signing off by the employee and the supervisor was not consistent. There were some that were not signed off as approved. And that was all the findings that we had. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that coming up, this is going to be for the 2022 year end. The legislative auditor is requiring the agreed upon procedures again. So it will not be required for the 2021, but starting in 2022, it will be required, and there are a lot of procedures. So I just wanted to let you know that that's going to be coming up.
Thank you. We need a motion and a second to approve the annual financial report for the year ended June 20.
So moved.
30th.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving down to item number 4, consider and take action to request from the Tensas Basin Levee District regarding possible acquisitions of the former Logtown School site. Mr. Wagner and Mr. Cahey.
Mr. Cahey was unable to attend this morning, sir, but I do want to thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Brandon Wagner. I'm the Assistant Director for the Tensas Basin Levee District. Just a little bit about our agency before I get into the reason I'm here. The Levee District for this area, Tensas Basin, is the oldest and geographically largest in the state. We were enacted by an act of the legislature in 1884. We cover 8 parishes in central and north Louisiana and 3 counties in southeast Arkansas. At each of those locations, Jonesville, Monroe, and Arkansas City, Arkansas, we maintain maintenance facilities to make sure that our levees and the flood control operations stay to the level of integrity that is expected. This is a year-round operation that we have. Currently, we are located just off of South Grant on District Drive, which is south of Conway Hospital. That has been our home, our headquarters for the past approximate 30 years. That has served us well, and we are at a point where our mission has expanded, but our location has not. We are requesting that you consider allowing us to purchase the Logtown School property. We have done several assessments there and discovered that infrastructure-wise, it has everything that we would need to operate as a public agency. It has some additional things that would help us to harden a facility so that we could ride out certain storms and make sure that all of our flood control operations, to include pump stations, are working adequately. And it also gives us direct access to the levee system. So we would request that you consider this. I have enclosed a packet with a personal letter of request. I have also provided a copy of appraisal that we have just recently done by a state certified appraiser, as well as a plat of the just over 10 acres. I can answer any questions.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for this Tensas Basin Levee District regarding possible.
I so move.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
Elmer, what was the appraisal, was there appraisal on that property you called? Do you know what the appraisal was?
I think the appraisal was included in the package.
Last page.
Last page?
The
We're gonna
appraised
get our
value was $48,000.
48,000?
That's right here. It's single. That is the purchase price?
Sorry?
That is the purchase price?
Yes.
Elmer, we're gonna secure an appraisal too from the board's perspective?
Coker, this is a qualified state appraiser that does DOTD type of appraisal. It's an independent appraisal. That's up to the board if you want to expend the funds, but this particular gentleman does a lot of these, and it seemed to be reasonable, and there were comparables attached as is customary, and they appear to be in line. That's the board's prerogative if you wanted to go to the expense to secure the appraisal. This appears to be in order, and the gentleman's well qualified to do these type of appraisals. You may want to address that if you mentioned.
Just to elaborate a little bit on his qualifications, the Levee District is an ad valorem funded agency. However, we work very closely with capital outlay funds from the state of Louisiana, as well as FEMA, as well as the United States Army Corps of Engineers. The gentleman that has performed this appraisal is primarily one of the people that we do use because he is certified to do such appraisals as an independent appraiser. So with regards to the DOTD, he works hand in hand with the other state and federal agencies.
Yeah, based on our just talking around, we think that this is a very fair appraisal for the property that's there. We did go out and look at it just to see, and I think maybe police jury has been maybe bush hogging it a couple of times a year or whatever, because there was some sort of tie into them. Is that correct, Elmer? That the police jury had?
The board may recall that there's a long-standing cooperative endeavor agreement. Some of you were on the board at the time, but when the old Logtown School was owned on the property and it was abandoned basically in dilapidated condition, and Kenneth may recall, I think at some point it may have actually caught on fire and burned. They set it on fire about 4 or 5 times, I think. But the old building was removed by the police jury, and at the time, there's river access, there was a boat launch, and so there is a current cooperative endeavor agreement with the police jury to allow access. There's a small picnic area there. The picnic tables are still there. I think the barbecue grills that were installed are no longer there, but it's an unimproved area. The police jury does mow it a couple of times a year. I've been in conversation with the police jury representatives. They're willing to work with us with regard to finalizing this transaction. They've basically done everything they need to do. The only other issue would be the parish fire department, had need for, a water well to service and provide fire service to that particular part of the parish. And the board amended the cooperative endeavor agreement with the police jury, several years ago. And, there has actually been one, water well drilled by the parish at their expense, to provide water service there to fill their pumper trucks. And, I discussed it, with Mr. Street, and, they would like to maintain some presence there just to provide water service to that part of the parish for that fire protection district. So that's the only real modification that has been performed, was to drill that one water well. I don't think that's gonna affect y'all's potential operation.
We've spoken with the police jury, and that cooperating endeavor agreement that is there, we would have no issues with conveying that.
Essentially, the police jury is willing to forego, as I understand it, forego their rights to the property, and just go forward if the school board's pleasure is to this agreement, with the one condition that they'd like to maintain that well on the property to service their pump truck.
I just say that it's in the district that I represent, and up to this point, it's just sort of been vacated and unrepresented, and tends to be an eyesore without some type of a maintenance via the police jury. I just want to commend TBLD for having an interest there to bring the property back alive again, and for great use. You all are a government entity, as we are, and I'm glad to, because I know where you're located. I went by the other day, and I saw how cramped you are. A good friend of mine used to be a welder, work for you, passed away a few years ago, but
Good man.
yes, very good man. And thank you all for having an interest in it.
Thank you.
Sir, how many acres?
It's just over 10. Yes, sir. This would also, so our headquarters currently has a maintenance facility, but this would hold our administration facility as well, where we have monthly board meetings and conduct business.
Mr. Wagner had spoken to us in our meetings earlier, and he said, we're kind of low key until the river starts rising and the water gets closer to the levees and possibly breaching the levees and things like that. We hope that y'all remain low keyed throughout the duration of your time there.
So do we. So do we.
Any more discussion from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Moving down to item number 5, consider of approval policies, Ms. Jennifer Nugent.
Good afternoon, Board. If you will look in your policies folder, at the top of the page, you should see 6 policies that I presented last school board meeting for your consideration. And so I'm asking for your approval of those 6 policies today.
We have a motion and a second to approve these policies.
I so move that we approve these policies.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Nugent.
Okay. And also, if you'll look at the bottom of that page, you will see 8 policies for your consideration. And I will ask for a vote on those policies next month. I've also printed those out and placed them in your policy binder.
Okay. Thank you. Moving down to item number 6, consider COVID quarantine guidelines as recommended by the state superintendent. Ms. Nichols?
Good afternoon. On September the 29th, Dr. Cade Brumley announced a new parent choice option for quarantining. This option would give parents the choice to quarantine their child or have them remain at school after close contact. Parents will still have to monitor their child at home. Dr. Brumley's parent choice option is contrary to what the CDC and the LDH are recommending.
Do we have a motion and a second to approve this recommendation?
I move that we allow the Louisiana Department of Education's parent choice on quarantining when student is exposed to a COVID exposure be allowed by the parent.
We have a second?
Did you say it was contrary to what CDC?
Absolutely. The CDC and the LDH, they see that the numbers are going down, they're decreasing, and that the layers of protection are working. And as you take off each layer, the virus can transmit much more easily.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
They feel like we still should be quarantining.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Motion dies of lack of second.
Public comment? Scotty, I commend you for trying to make that happen. So.
Sir, you got 3 minutes.
All right. As you know, our governor is not shy about issuing orders and mandates. And you all made it clear during the last meeting that your hands are tied when it comes to resisting any order from Baton Rouge, no matter how intrusive or unconstitutional. Over the last few weeks, we've seen mandates in California and New York requiring school employees and students as young as 5 years old take the COVID shot or be subject to constant testing. If employees decline the shot or the constant testing, they're faced with the possibility of unemployment. And if students don't submit to the shot or the constant testing, they are denied an education. During the last few weeks, we've also seen employees and business leaders reject the vaccine mandate. I'm sure you've all seen the lawsuit filed by the employees of Ochsner Health and the recent statement from the Delta Airlines CEO who said he would not enforce a vaccine mandate on his employees. I feel it's important that we get this on the record right now so that parents and school system employees can make plans for the future. Will any of you go on record today that when the vaccine and testing mandates hit Ouachita Parish, you will stand for medical freedom and vote against enforcing those mandates? And when I say vote against, I don't mean saying we wish we could, but our hands are tied. I mean going on record and voting against the enforcement of those mandates. That was a question, and your silence tells me that everyone employed by Ouachita Parish School System who does not want to subject themselves to this vaccine may need to be looking for another job.
My question is, does that pertain to the agenda? I've already said what I would do. So
Yeah.
that's not on the agenda. I'm just asking about the agenda.
This is regarding COVID.
Not the quarantine.
Okay, well, your silence speaks volumes. So anyone employed by Ouachita Parish School System should be probably thinking about their future.
Any more comments from the audience?
Yeah.
You got 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. School board members, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. My name is Byron McCoy. I approach you today as an unbiased parent. I started homeschooling my kids 3 years ago for totally different reasons. So I'm not here for them, but I'm here representing every single child in Ouachita Parish School System. The ones that you've masked and the ones you've taken away their ability to breathe and speak. You opened this meeting with a prayer, which is amazing. And you see, I've been in prayer for you, Dr. Coker, and also for you, Mr. Geis, because I'm proud you guys stood firm on your faith while the enemy attacks. All because we got to witness 10 young men being born again. So I stand before you today to let each and every one of you know God put you in this place where you are today for a reason. He's prepared you for this moment right here in time. And it's time we get comfortable with getting uncomfortable. You see, the greatest man to ever walk this earth said, "But whoso shall offend one of these little ones who believeth in me, it'd be better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea." But don't take my word for it. Read it yourselves. It's in Matthew 18:6 in the red letters. Scotty, I read the article in the newspaper where you stated your hands were tied. And I know Attorney John Geis told everybody at the last meeting that the school board and the parents' hands were tied. But I don't see any rope and I don't see any handcuffs. So let's stop being dramatic and let's be proactive. You can stop paying that attorney to stand here and tell you can't do anything, and you can send him to Baton Rouge and start fighting for our kids' rights, because you know what's next. Forced vaccinations. 24,000 children got forced to vax at a stadium, and 2 of those kids died immediately. So statistically speaking, if we allow that to happen here in Ouachita Parish, you're going to murder a child. Scotty, I know you got young ones. I've umpired them. And I know a lot of you got grandkids. And I know that falls down to the homeschool kids. And if we add the Monroe City School kids, now we're talking about 3 kids, statistically speaking, that we will allow to be murdered. And that's not counting all the adverse reactions. VAERS reported over 775,000. UK's reported over 1.2 million. And let me tell you what's not being reported in the news. The 18,000 deaths, 9,000 cases of Bell palsy, 24,000 heart attacks, 36,000 cases of myocarditis, and 40,000 people permanently disabled. So I stand before you as a brother in Christ telling you, you have got to stop the madness, because it's coming.
Thank you.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon.
gentlemen, ma'am.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. We stood in here on September 14th, and we listened to Mr. John Geis tell the school board that they had no opportunity to reject these mandates, and that if you would lose your insurance, okay? That was a blatant lie. We've got the Chubb exclusion virus, bacteria, or microorganism that induces physical distress, illness, or disease. This right here is from your insurance provider, okay? This is an exclusion. This policy is amended at Section C, exclusions, by adding the following exclusion. The insurance under any coverage part of this policy does not apply to any liability, loss, damage, injury, cost, expense of any nature whatsoever caused by or arising out of, related to, resulting from, directly or indirectly, in whole or part. 1. A. Any pathogen, virus, bacteria, or any microorganism. He sat up here and lied to you guys. They have excluded themselves from this. A waiver should be made available to every student in this school district, in this parish, okay? You do it for football. Has the school ever been held liable for a student that has had parents that signed a waiver for them to get hurt? Have you guys ever been sued for any school for any kid getting a virus? You can't prove where this virus is coming from, okay? Your hands aren't tied. You have an opportunity to do something. You have an opportunity to stand up for freedom and stand up for these kids' health. I hope you do the right thing.
Thank you.
Hi.
3 minutes, ma'am.
I am Connie Sampanero. I'm not a parent. I'm a taxpayer and a small business owner. And it was brought to my attention about 6 weeks ago, the funding that the school was getting with respect to COVID. That most of us that are not have children in the system, we're unaware of this. We really are. And I did speak with Mr. Coker briefly on this, and so I'm coming here with some suggestions. I would suggest that this be made very transparent to the public, like me, who is a business owner and has quite a bit of property, and we pay a lot in taxes. I'd like to know the funding coming in and the expenditures going out. I think this could be put on not your Facebook page, but your website, and for the entire public to be able to read this and be at peace of what's going on. Because when I speak to a lot of different property owners and small business, they are unaware of this, and like we were. And this is, been getting funding for, I think, 18 months or more. Another thing I would just make a suggestion on is to put this document on the website. It's the Federal Register, Volume 86, number 76, because I think that the public should be aware of the basis for the funding, which is to follow the CDC guidelines, including universal and correct wearing a mask, modifying facilities to allow for physical distancing, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, cleaning and maintaining health facilities, including improving ventilation, contact tracing, in combination with isolation and quarantine, in collaboration with state, local, territorial, or tribal health departments, diagnostic screening, testing, efforts to provide vaccination to school communities, appropriate accommodations for children with disabilities with respect to health and safety policies. I think this would be very informative for the public, and to also know that within here, it does say the public is to be involved in these measures as far as delegating or input of where the funding is going. I do know that you guys are doing something with the ventilation. I saw that on the agenda. I think that's really good. As someone who's worked in healthcare for 20 years, that is very important. And to have UV lighting in there to kill viruses and bacteria is very important also. I do have a question on the ESSER funding 3. I noticed the date for the funding, it ends in September of 2023. And so my question on grants, I've worked with grants a little bit in healthcare, but my question would be, if you get the money to enforce the CDC guidelines to reopen, and they're not necessary, let's say they're not necessary at some point, what happens to the funding? Are the taxpayers ever on the hook for any of the grant funding? Do we have to pay this back? These are just some questions if you could address, especially on your website, it would be very helpful for the public.
Right. And Connie, thank you for your talk right now. Even though it's not pertaining to the topic at hand, we actually have submitted our ESSER budget to the State Department, and we are anticipating getting a partial go to start spending on some of this money. Hopefully November, we'll be able to go over where the major expenditures are going with ESSER and where that money is actually going, and then we'll be able to post it at that point. Okay?
So you got 3 minutes.
Okay. I was going to appear today and speak to you about mandates, shots, and masks, and how they have affected my children, and how it is 100% infringement on my freedoms, their freedoms, our liberties, and our faith in Jesus Christ. However, I've decided not to do that, being that you have not listened to anything that your patriot-loving constituents has said thus far, because your hands are tied. With that being said, I'm here to give you a warning. This warning is not from myself, but from a judge. This particular judge is not any judge, but the most honorable and sovereign judge of all. Before this judge, one day, soon, each one of you will find yourselves. You will have to give an account of the oppressions that you have enforced and bestowed on my children and each children underneath your leadership and their parents. Men and women of this board, you have sat on this board for years, some of you decades. Most of you consider yourselves quote unquote Christian men and women. I say that lightly because in this day and time, everyone is considered a quote unquote Christian. In using that term, I look to the fruit from the individuals that express that thought. I look to see if it lines up with the Word of God. But board members, I have to tell you, if I'm comparing fruit from any of your tenures here on this board and your time at this board, I have to say I would not eat of it. If you are looking for the best interest of our children and your fruit is of God, why is evolution being indoctrinated upon our children, but not creation from our God? Why is it that in our history classes, false history, filled with partial truths and lies being washed in the minds of our children, that is indoctrination, that is conditioning, that's propaganda. Guys, this does not measure up to God's standards. And personally, I'm one parent that is fed up with it. One day, none of you will have the luxury of diverting blame or the ability to try to sell each other out. You will be before the one true judge, and from that you cannot escape or divert. I truly hope on that day you stand before him in true remittance of your sins, and that the blood of Jesus is stained over you. In closing, you have had years to better Ouachita Parish schools, and you have now failed miserably. With that being said, I ask of you to repent from these atrocities before Jesus Christ that you have forced upon our kids. And I ask, as a constituent, that each of you resign today. And we will fill your seats. And we will fill your seats
with men and women
3 minutes
that will
is up.
abide by God's law.
Your 3 minutes is up, sir.
And that, I'm almost finished.
Your
And
3
that they will
minutes
stand
is
up
up.
against lawlessness, tyrant, governors, attorneys, and board members.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just want to say that my name is Roxy. Hey, Dr.
Hey,
Cooper.
Roxy.
Hey, Scotty. Talked to you several times. How are you doing? Okay. So I wasn't planning on speaking, honestly.
Yeah, right.
However, who said you're right? Okay. Well, honestly, I wasn't. But anyways, I want to say thank you, Mr. Wagner, for actually making a stand and saying that the quarantine option should be the parents. After all, they are the parents. However, Mr. McCoy, I see so much support from you. So we got two leaders right here, in my honest opinion. However, it's just a matter of time of standing up and leading. We need to stop taking the, what is that word? Suggestions from Noah that actually works in the same law firm as Ty Geis's brother, because it just speaks volumes of who is actually running this board, and it just looks bad on the public eye. Y'all have the opportunity to adapt whatever policies. I've been studying up on the school board policy manuals in order to be a school board member, and y'all have the authority. However, it's just a matter of you saying yes or no and doing what is right. And what is right is doing good by these kids and them earning an education, the employees, and the community. And I just want to say, when are y'all going to stand up? I see you as a leader, and I see you as a leader. Are you going to challenge everything that's going on in Ouachita Parish? No, you're not going to challenge? Okay. Well, then maybe I was wrong about the leadership.
Hey, my name is Jeanette.
You got 3 minutes,
And
ma'am.
I just want to tell you that I'm not a terrorist. I'm not a domestic nor a international terrorist. I'm just a mom. And I grew up here, went to Westmore High School, went to Boley when it was a junior high, and Caroli. I'm not a terrorist. I was a cheerleader at all three of those schools. I'm just a regular person. So I feel like my child was sold for $76.6 million. And I'm here to tell you that my child is not for sale, and she is priceless. I had her at 41 years old. She is my child, and she is not for sale. We cannot sell her again. Do you understand? So I was doing a little bit of research on the COVID vaccine, and after the Project Veritas thing came out with the fetal cell line tissues, I ended up going online and doing some research. Thank you, Westmore High School, for teaching me how to research, because that's where I found my skills to research. So I came across this Christianity Daily, and we have a Pamela Aker that says that she is a biologist, and she spent 9 months in a lab to perform vaccine research on the use of HEK-293 cell line. Now, what that cell line is an aborted baby. But what really scared me about this is Aker shared that they will actually deliver these babies via cesarean section. The babies are still alive when the researchers start extracting the tissue to the point where their heart is beating. And they're generally not giving any anesthetic, because that would disrupt the cells that the researchers are trying to enact. So on live babies, this is what's happening. Okay, so what is HEK-293? It's in Pfizer. Pfizer was developed by it, and so was Moderna. It's human embryonic kidneys. Johnson & Johnson has PER-C6, human retinal. So we are removing babies' eyes as they are alive and removing their kidneys. Now, I know that this is true because anytime you get a heart transplant or what, you have to get it from a live human being. The person can't be dead that is giving their kidney. So as a Christian, as a mother, we cannot allow this to keep going on. That is barbaric. We are better than this as human beings. We cannot let this happen anymore. Thank you.
Ms. Hicks and members of the board, I'd like to clarify something that was said just a few minutes ago that's inaccurate. Our law firm, Mr. Geis, and I have consulted with the school board's insurers. Not just our agent, but insurers all over the state have advised school board clients that, first of all, the policies are very clear. That was an inaccurate statement that was made a few minutes ago. The policies are very clear that if the insured violates the law in any respect, the insurance company reserves the right to deny. To deny.
Hey, didn't nobody interrupt y'all? We'll have you removed if you interrupt him again. Because he didn't nobody interrupted y'all, so please show him the
governor's order, whether we like it or dislike it, there's a specific statute that says governors' executive orders and proclamations carry the force and effect of law. Again, if we like it or dislike it, that's what the law says. That's the statute. So the governor's proclamation. Our advice to our clients is that, again, whether we agree or disagree with the language contained in the proclamation, that's a political issue. What we're obligated to do as attorneys is to advise our clients that the proclamation says what it says. And it also is it carries the force and effect of law. So the next step is, if the boards choose to violate or disregard the governor's proclamation and what it says in the proclamation, then the boards are running the risk of their insurers denying coverage based on that exclusion. That's what we've been told. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that's what we've been told. And so that's what we're advising the school board. We don't know what the insurers would do, but that's what it says in the policy. If you violate the law in any respect, well, then they reserve the right to deny coverage. So all we've done is advise our clients that in the event that happens, we're in jeopardy of doing that. So Mr. Geis did not lie to this board. This law firm did not lie to this board. We've tried to give you our best legal advice. And again, people disagree about the governor's proclamations and his executive orders. That's a separate issue. What we've tried to do is to give the board sound legal advice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you have to direct. First of all, I don't know if y'all realize on the policy is you can't ask. This is discussion. This is time for you to give your thought, but you can't ask these folks questions right now. That's not, look at the policy. Look at the policy. They do not have to answer. And I'm not going to talk with you in the back there, over everybody else. Please show some respect.
You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to be as respectful
Thank
as
you.
possible. But I'm a nurse, 22 years in an ICU. I'm also a former employee of Ouachita Parish School Board. I'm also an insurance agent. And there's a lot of misinformation flying around in this room. And I'm just going to say that our children deserve better, and we need to be standing up for them. Everything that she just said about that vaccine, I believe 110%. And as far as COVID and quarantining, if Bessie steps up and says, hey, we can sign a waiver, the fact that you're going against that, which is the state, totally contradicts everything, and it's very hypocritical.
Thank you.
Move on. Last one. This will be the last.
This will be the last speaker. You have 3 minutes, ma'am.
So we know that
Bessie has authority even over our governor. We know that for a fact. So I have offered up assistance over the course of these, 2 or 3 months now to help the board members. I've been emailing y'all, hey, to the info@opsb.net email that you can petition Bessie to give you waivers for these children because there are legitimate medical exemptions that were accepted last year. They're not being accepted this year. Also, you're enacting a medical intervention under EUA law, states that you have to have a reporting system for that. None of you did that. I offered it up and I told y'all this is what you needed to do. I told one board member and then I emailed it to the board members through the OPSB.net site. So I created it because I gave a window frame for that to be put up for the public. That was another step that you could have taken to show that you are, in fact, concerned and wanting to do what's right. So you can provide a waiver. You can petition Bessie to just void all this out. Superintendent Cade Brumley is now stating you cannot ignore the kids that are withdrawing, the testing, even funding's being affected by this. He can't ignore it anymore. We have representatives going to all of these meetings, all of them, and sitting in and working with these individuals at these meetings. There is stuff that you can be doing and you're not doing it. There absolutely is. And just by him saying that we now need to let parents choose the quarantine options for them, do you know why he's saying that? Because there are parents that they're having to file bankruptcy. They're losing their livelihoods because they do not have care for their kids to be in quarantine when they weren't even sick. They don't want to contribute to the testing. And there's people losing their livelihoods over this. So it should be a parent's choice, not only for quarantine, it should also be a parent's choice about masks. Offering a breathing break to a student that recently went under cleft palate surgery, that is child abuse. That is neglect to that child's medical needs. That's also contributing to him or her not receiving adequate education. That is just, that is so terrible. And you all are acting as state actors now. Your insurance does exclude you. You can offer a waiver.
3 minutes up, ma'am.
You can.
All right. We had a motion on the floor and no second. So that failed, okay? Moving down to item number 7, discuss possibilities of modification of 2021 and 2022 ready to achieve guidelines, I'm sorry, Dr. Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. I think most of you, probably everybody in this room, realizes and knows that next week on the 27th, the governor will either be extending the mask mandate or he will possibly be releasing it to where it's not a mandate. And so, board, what I would like to do is to kind of see your thoughts and where you stand, and if you are willing to, if the mandate comes off, you have 2 options. If the mandate comes off from the governor next week, you have 2 options. One option is to, because as a school system, you can still require it to be mandated. The second one is you can go back to how we had planned on starting the school year with it being highly recommended, but not mandated. And so that's what the choice is going to be. Now, if he keeps the mandate on, I don't see that we have a whole lot of options on that. We will continue to do. There's nobody that would love to get rid of these masks more than me and most of these people seated around this board table right here, I can tell you. And so that's kind of, we need direction from you on what you would like us to do. If the mandate comes off, what would you like for us to do? Would you like for us to make it highly recommended, as we were going to at the beginning of the school year, and then have that option out there for them not to wear it. But the quarantining, because of what just happened, is still out there and it's still real. A good thing, a positive thing, because something positive has got to come out of this, is the fact that our kids and our numbers have gone down. That's a blessing, y'all. That's what we ought to be applauding about, is the fact that our kids are not getting as sick as what they were getting, and the numbers are dropping. It's spiking, which is spiking in the right direction now, and that's what we are, we have been anticipating and hoping and praying for. And so those are good things that are happening within not only our district, but also within our state right now. So, Board, I would put that out to you if you want to motion it or leave it. That's up to you.
I move that should the governor lift the mask mandate October 27th, that we go back to our original plan pre-August 4th, that mask would be optional.
Yeah. I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Roll call vote?
Discussion.
Huh?
Any discussion?
You got a second?
Discussion.
Yeah. Any discussion from the audience? Okay.
From the board?
From the board? All-
Mr. President, I want to, first of all, thank you for the way you've handled this board meeting today. I also want to thank and commend the superintendent and every board member for doing what is best as we navigate through this worldwide pandemic. This is a first for all of us. This is something that is foreign, something that we've never had to endure in our lifetimes. And I pray that once it's over, that we'll never have to face such an obstacle in the future. I want to say that it's not an easy thing serving a public position. This is not my first rodeo. It's difficult when you take a stance and you personally think that you're doing the right thing, yet your faith and belief in God and in Christ is challenged. I'm rather familiar with the Word of God myself. I don't just speak it. I try and live it. I know the difference between right and wrong. And I believe in letting the Spirit be tried by the Spirit to know whether it is of God. This is not something that we do or take lightly. I don't come here without praying, and I don't leave here without praying. Even though I disagree with different individuals on this board, I don't attack them, neither do I threaten them. And if they offend me, I immediately forgive them. I'm also aware that there's another scripture that says, judge ye not, lest you be judged. I don't think the best way to achieve anything is through intimidation, threats, name calling, and judging. I pastor a church. I've had members who challenged my recommendation that we wear a mask, because many of us have suffered. Many people have died. Many who are my friends, and I've done many funerals. And I cried as I did those funerals. We are doing what we think is best, even if you think it's not. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir.
He's talking, please.
I'm talking as a board member. I never That's not given to board members. So I want to share this with you. I'm well aware of the pressure that's being placed on many of us who serve in public and elected positions. It's unfortunate as we try to navigate through this pandemic. It's unfortunate that we're fighting each other and not the pandemic. I remain committed to doing what I think is best that represent all taxpayers, especially those who are responsible and whom I'm responsible for in my district. That means that I will continue to support wearing masks. I disagree with the superintendent, state superintendent, and sometimes I disagree with the governor. But what I do is not determined by what they say or do. I do what I think is right for me, and especially for what is right for the children that I represent. Therefore, I don't stand and hide behind the governor's mandate. I have to stand behind my mandates, which I think are God-given. Therefore, I do not support the original suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries.
No.
Okay. Moving down to item number 8, financial report for August 31st, 2021. Ms. Meekus?
You have in front of you the interim financial statements for the period ending August 31st, 2021. This is 2 months into our 2021-2022 fiscal year. As I do need to make a correction on the year-to-date revenue. The percentage of prior year to date is listed as 199%. That is incorrect. It is actually 99%, being that we are in a period of level operations. We are within our budget for the current year as we get underway. If you look on the last 2 pages of the report, this gives a breakdown of the comparison of revenues and expenditures for the prior 3 years for the general fund and the M&O sales tax funds. You can see for the 2021-2022 school year, we have not yet begun to collect sales taxes as they are collected 2 months in arrears. That's just the normal process. So we actually don't start to see sales tax collections each year until the month of September. But our revenues and expenditures and fund balance are on target with our budgets that have been adopted by the board. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the financial report, August the 31st, 2021?
So moved. Second.
Second. Any discussion from the audience? Financial report, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Connie Sampanera again. I have a question. On these reports, is there a way the public can access those? Are they on your website once you approve them?
Yeah.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're easy to find?
Excuse me. On the website.
Alain, you're our communications lady.
The financial reports that are given to the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, you done spoke your 3 minutes. This is a financial report here. You got something about our financial report?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, for the frontline pay that the educators were supposed to get last year, can you tell me how much they received and when that was dispersed to them? Like what check that was added to their pay?
Not germane.
Well, public comment wasn't given.
That ain't part of the financial
This is
report,
not
ma'am, so I'm
germane.
sorry.
Are we allowed to do public
Your time
comment?
is up, ma'am.
On, well, I'm still within 3 minutes.
No, you done spoke 3 minutes.
On another agenda item.
This is not financial report you're reporting on.
It pertains to the educators getting funding under this.
No, financial report.
Have a seat or I might escort you out of the building.
Thank you.
It's not germane.
She don't have it, I mean.
Any more questions from Ms. Meekers? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Oh, we
Thank you,
don't-
Ms. Meekers. Moving down to item number
Vote
9,
on that.
consider ITEP industrial tax exemption program applications. Ms. Meekers?
What you have before you and you had in your packet was the industrial tax exemption program applications. We have recently received 2 applications, one from Louisiana Plastic Industries and one from Graphic Packaging International. These applications have been approved by the Board of Commerce and Industry, and as such, we have received notice. As a board, you have 3 options. You can either approve the exemptions as they're presented, you can disapprove the exemptions as they're presented, or you can take no action in which case it would revert back to the approval by the Board of Commerce and Industry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to consider the industrial tax exemption program.
I can't hear what he said.
Again, no action would mean that it would just go through without an endorsement from the board.
Yeah.
Is what it would be.
You don't want,
Okay.
you don't want to
Right.
vote on it?
Well, you can, if there's no action.
Okay. You don't need
It's up
no
to the
action?
board if you want to take action or
Okay,
not.
Right.
well, we don't take no action then. All right. Moving down to item number 10, consider Louisiana compliance questionnaire. Ms. Meekers?
You have in your packet the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire. This is part of the audit engagement process for the 2021, 2022, or I'm sorry, this is for the year ended June 30th, 2021. I say at any given time, I work in 3 fiscal years. These are basic questions that we have to answer each year, and the board has to approve this questionnaire. And the questionnaire basically just addresses whether we have followed public bid law, the laws of public budgeting, code of ethics. It gives our basic profile as an organization. There's nothing extraordinary about the questionnaire this year. I believe all of you are familiar with the process, but as I answered the questionnaire, there was no cases of noncompliance that I could note.
Do we need to vote on that, Doctor, or we just pass it?
I do need a vote on
No,
it.
you need to vote.
Says consider.
Yes.
Okay, consider Louisiana compliance questionnaire. Need a motion and a second?
First, Mr. President, I'll need to call.
Well, get a motion and a second, please, for discussion.
So moved.
I'll second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
I have a point of question.
Okay.
That is that we have a conversation going on while we're having a board meeting. And that's not policy. If there's a discussion, it needs to be held on the outside. I know it's, but, that's point of order, I'm sorry, not question, point of order.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you, Harold.
Yes, sir, thank you, Mr.
All
President.
right. Any questions from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to item number 11, consider approval of 2021 revised transportation policy and procedure manual. Mr. Prentice Boyd.
Oh, I'm way ahead.
Appreciate it, Board. Dr. Coker. Just a few short revisions in our safety policy and manual, and we do have a TAC committee. Most of the members are in here. When we do review accidents, they do a great job. But the first concern I'd like to put in our policy would be no child left behind as far as checking their bus after end of every route. Post-trip inspections, they'll be done in the AM and the PM, which normally the bus driver walks down the bus and makes sure, and that's all this heat we've had, very dangerous. So I'm glad to have that weather this morning. So that's the first thing, just to be sure we have it in our policy manual. Check for students after every run. If the bus happens to leave for an activity trip, to be sure and check before boarding in the PM. And the other one is, we just feel like we need a little more teeth in our policy, and of course, TAC approves everything that we do, but any at-fault accidents that once we review it by the TAC committee, that we can have some on-site training if the driver is found at fault, which would probably be a couple of hours, but we just feel like we need to get out there and do more training with those drivers. We have all kind of situations, y'all well know, 230 regular routes, and probably 15 or 20 bus stops every morning and every afternoon times 200, you know, so we have around 5,000 stops each day, which we put a lot of emphasis on that because it's very dangerous. We're trying to let the children get off door side and not have to cross. There are some places where we have to cross in front of the bus. So we want to make sure everybody's well trained in that area. And that's only two things I'd like to add in our policy to get approved.
We need a motion and a second for the approval of the 2021 revised transportation policy.
Also move.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience?
Thank you.
From the board. Skeeter, are you still short of bus drivers?
Yeah. We're making it. We're working on it every day. We're making it every day, but we don't have as many as normal.
I see.
And it's not just our parish, y'all well aware of that. It's
all over.
Texas, I've talked to Houston, Dallas, they have the same problem everywhere.
Yeah.
So we're continuing to have another training, close to next month.
Okay.
And we're advertising in the Citizen, everything, buses, different ways we can get the word out.
Okay, Skeeter. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, any more questions from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 12, consider copy paper bid number 122. Mr. Bobby Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks, board members. I have a bid that we're going to have requesting for permission later in the agenda. And I would like to get the board's approval to go ahead and approve that bid. It's the copy paper. It's something we do about once a quarter. But I'd like to go ahead and approve it. It's going to open on November 1st. And then I will bring that back to the board at the meeting. I believe it's on the 9th.
Okay. You want to go ahead and approve the copy paper right now?
Yes, sir. If I can just get your permission to approve the low responsive bid for that.
Is it on the agenda?
It is. It's under permission to bid later.
Permission to bid later. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve the paper bid.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Thank you, board.
Okay, Mr. Jones. Item number 13, select architect for Pinecrest School. Mr. Slusher?
Yes, Mr. Hicks, board members, I'd like for you to select an architect for Pinecrest School. We're looking at adding on to the front of the school for a parent pickup and drop off. This is not a short-term project. It'll probably be within the next 18 months. But I'd like for you to go on and select an architect now so they can begin drawing plans.
Okay.
I'd like to add to that it's been going on for a couple of months, but seemed like longer than that. But I move we name the Architectural Alliance Group.
What was the name of them, Scotty?
TAG, T-A-G.
Okay.
I didn't understand. Who?
The Architect Alliance Group.
Architect Alliance Group.
Okay. All right, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
What are they doing, Scotty?
We're adding we've been working on this for a while, but it's basically adding a awning on the front of Pinecrest for the parent drop-off.
We'll get wet with it.
It's just, it's slippery hill. It's a pretty dangerous situation.
And the school, the way the school is designed right now, it's going to be complicated designing a parent pickup and drop off.
It's going to be accessible to buses as well.
It's
Yes, we hope. We hope it is. We're gonna have to see what the,
Well, the bus drop-off, yeah, it
Bus
depends on
drop-off's
the
on the
height.
side
As
of
you know,
the gym.
the design of the school is not cohesive for this.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion carries. Moving down to item number 14, re-roof the old gym at West Ouachita High School. Mr. Slusher?
Yes, sir. I talked to y'all last board meeting about possibly doing this as a change order because of the damage that this old roof is causing. It's leaking real bad. And because of that, instead of that, I'm asking that we do it as a public work project. We'll keep the same contractor that's on site now and the same architect. And the estimated cost is $76,500. By doing a public works, we don't have to put it out for bid or get quotes, and we can go on and get him to start work on it immediately.
Okay, we have a motion in a second.
Also move that we re-roof the old gym at West Ouachita High School as a public works. Yeah.
And motion in a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
I just have one question. Is this the first time it's been re-roofed, or has it been done?
Oh, Lord, I would
Yes.
imagine this is
Oh, my God.
probably the second time, maybe, even might be the third.
It's about 30 years old.
This is the old
the
roof,
flat roof.
Yeah.
the old gym
Oh,
roof.
okay,
Yeah.
that one. Okay.
Yeah. And funding source on this, Ken?
The west side sales tax.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any more discussion from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no? Motion carries. Number 15, construction renovation projects.
Yes, sir. Also, I handed out earlier, the status report on Bowley. We had a meeting there at 9 o'clock this morning. For those of you that weren't able to attend, this gives you some pictures that show you what's going on, and also listed in the comments of what's being done right now and where they look to be in 2 weeks and a month and 2 months. The completion date still looks like it's gonna be February of next year.
Wow.
February 2022.
Which we have already begun making plans for. It's gonna fall about the time that testing would be coming about, and it could be longer than that, they're not sure. So it'll probably be opening the 2022-23 school year, you know, with just a few weeks left of school after testing is over. We hope to be able to move our teachers and some of our people in right at the end of May is what we're hoping for.
So they'll be ready to go when the school year starts.
Really excited about the project. We walked it today again, and we just continue to see, it's gonna be exciting. It'll be an exciting day when we open that. Certainly appreciate Tim and his group for watching it really well for us. I think it's gonna be something we can all be very proud of.
Looks good.
Absolutely.
Looks really good.
Any more questions?
And on the Woodlawn project, we're having a hope and pray our last final meeting there next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We'll meet in the school, the cafeteria. The band and choir room is finished. The consumer living is finished. And when I was out there Thursday, the week before last, they had almost all the awnings and walkways and concrete poured. So hopefully this will be our last meeting at Woodlawn. And that's at 9 o'clock next Tuesday, the 26th, I believe the date is. That's all I have unless you have some questions.
Anybody have any questions for Ken?
Ken, any updates on the roof out at Ouachita High School? The contractor, is he finished, or is he gonna be finished, or where we're at on it?
Stephen? Stephen's in charge. You put him in charge of the roof, so I'm gonna let him answer that.
material, known by the time they can get on bridge. That dry off, get up there and do what you do about it. Tom told me that this morning.
When's the last time they been on site, Stephen?
You said the, picture this morning, Stephen, I don't know if he sent it to you or not. It's like he had about 10 people up there working this morning.
So hopefully by the next board meeting, that roof will be completed. Is that kind of the tentative completion date?
Mr. President, on this bid for, West Ouachita High School auditorium, who is that D and L?
I'm sorry?
On that bid for West Ouachita High School? D and L, Ouachita.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're coming. We're getting there.
We're getting down there.
Hang on.
That's my next thing, man.
Any more questions for Ken?
I'll take the bid 1022, Mr. Hicks.
1022?
Yeah.
All right.
Evaluate the bid. We had the bid opening. I recommend the low bid of D&L of Ouachita. $3,249,000. Also recommend to add alternates 1, 2, and 3. They total $346,000 for a total of $3,595,000. D&L is, they've done some jobs for us before, they both, they did all the foundation work and everything at Boulder School, the new Boulder School was built. Yeah, they've done several jobs for us before.
Okay. We have a motion.
David Mayfield, sometimes they do it under Mayfield Construction. You might have heard of them.
I didn't have the D and L.
We have a motion and a second to accept the D&L construction for this project.
I make a motion with step D and L.
Second.
Yeah, you get,
We have a second?
Yeah.
He did. Scott did.
Any discussion from the audience? From the board?
I'd like to, again, point out that this has been going on project's been going on for a couple of years. Sherry and I, Dr. Coker, Ms. Oakes, Tim and his group, really appreciate y'all. Really been a team effort from the ag to the tennis to the front. This project's actually affecting several projects, several programs at West Ouachita. We're addressing the front of the school, which is adding counselor office, administration office. We're adding on to the additional space for the ag building, which is the welding shop. I was out there this morning. Encourage all of y'all to go out there and see what happens out there in the welding shop. Really, really impressive. And we're also extending it on to affect the tennis, which is adding restrooms and it's a vending concession, if I'm not mistaken, locker rooms for the tennis courts. So this program is really affecting a lot, and I really want to just commend everyone for working together. And finally, after what seems like a couple of years, we can get this going. I know the staff and administration at West Ouachita is looking forward to it. So thank y'all.
Okay. We had a motion. Did we get a second?
We did.
We got, okay.
Got a second.
Any more discussion from the board? All in favor, yes?
Yeah.
yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving down to item number 2 on evaluation of bids. Number 922, Havoc Equipment, Esser, $249,000.
Mr. Hicks, I'd like to table that second item.
Table that one.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second to table item number 2, Havoc Equipment.
So moved.
So move second.
Okay, all in favor, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item number 3.
Yes, sir, Mr. Hicks, board members, bid 1322 was a 3-item bid. I only received one bid for bid item 1, and I would like the board to approve that as long as I get a price of $5,112 and not the $74,771 that was actually on the bid sheet.
Okay.
I've not heard back from the vendor.
How much did you say? 5,000 what?
$5,112. It's at the bottom of the sheet that I provided.
It's on the back page of the packet.
I have not heard back from the vendor yet to confirm that, but I got a verbal from them that it was okay, but I'm not gonna move forward until I get it in writing.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. And make sure it's not over. $5,112. Where'd the 74,000 come in at?
They put a total on there instead of the per each.
Oh, okay. All right, is we clear on what we bidding here? Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Oh, no, motion carries. Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Thank you, board members.
moving down to the next item.
Want to do all these at once, Mr. Hicks?
Yes, sir, we can if you would like.
Yes, sir. Okay, the first item is the warehouse cooler and freezer doors. I talked to Ms. Carrero. She said that they're in disrepair and they need to be fixed or replaced. The next item is an assistive technology that was from student support that we did not get any bids on, that I'm having to rebid. The next item for the portable tracks and trikes, those are the two items that I did not receive bids on from 1322. And the last item is the copy paper, which you all approved earlier today to allow me to get that bid done.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second for these bid items?
So move.
Second.
No. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion from the audience? From the board? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Thank you, board.
Thanks, sir. Board, our next meeting will be November the 9th at 12 o'clock. And I want to thank this board for the meetings we have to endure sometimes. And I know, testing your faith is just way over the top. And I apologize for having to hear that. I know some things don't go as good as people like, but, you're getting down that bad. You're digging hard. But I appreciate every one of you guys and girls. So I just need to say that. So
Yes, sir.
comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, darn.
Let me just remind you of one thing, board, that is okay. On November the 2nd, if y'all want to mark your calendars, November the 2nd, we're going to be having our Employees of Distinction banquet, where we recognize our teachers and support Employees of the Year. That'll be held at the West Monroe, West Ouachita Convention Center, 6 o'clock, Eileen, does that sound right? At 6 o'clock, and we'll be getting invitations out to you for that also.
November the 2nd, okay.
November 2nd, 6 o'clock.
That's all you got. Do I have a motion to adjourn?